then we will go ahead and get this kicked off. Would like to welcome everybody to our July 2026 SKHHP Executive Board meeting. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and I'm going to hand it over to Dorsal for roll call.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Nancy Backus let me know that she is on her way. Dana Ralph.
I am here.
Anya Zupancic.
Hi, I'm here for Liz today.
Christina Soltis.
I am here.
Gene Axinger let me know he wouldn't be able to make it today. Brian Davis.
Here.
Victoria Schroff.
Here.
Eric Zimmerman. Carmen Rivera.
Here.
James Lovell. Dennis Martinez.
Here.
And then Jelani Jackson let me know he could not make it. Sam Tedford, are you here? There are 7 board members present, so you've achieved quorum, Vice Chair.
All right, fantastic. So roll call serves as an introduction for the executive board, but we like to hear from others in attendance. That we are joined this afternoon by Mark Cote.
Mark Cote.
Okay, perfect. He's a member of our SKHHP Advisory Board. Want to say thank you for taking the time, Mark, for joining us this afternoon. And then Dorsal, could you recognize our staff work group members? And then we'll turn it over to our special guest and have her introduce herself in just a second, Senator.
Yes, ma'am. Matt Torpy.
Thank you, Dorsal. Matt Torpy, City of Maple Valley, here in support of Councilmember Schroff.
And Marina Hanson.
Good afternoon, Marina Hanson from the City of Kent, here supporting Mayor Ralph.
And I believe that's all of the staff work group present today, Vice Chair.
I'm here, Dorsal, super quick. Angie Mathias here supporting Councilmember Rivera, City of Renton.
Thank you. All right. Senator Orwell, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Orwell, I have the honor of representing South King County in the Senate. I also serve on the Housing Committee. And I wanted to visit you. I want to say thank you for all the work you're doing. It's so essential in South King, and really to understand how I can support you in this work. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. With that, we're going to move on to confirming the agenda. Dorsal, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. That then rolls us into public comment. This is the time on the agenda for public comment. Do we have anyone signed up online?
No, ma'am.
All right. And we will just keep on rolling. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. In your packet were the May 15th, 2026 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Motion carries and agenda minutes stand, or I'm sorry, minutes stand as approved. Next item on our agenda, we've got a resolution number 2026-05. So the resolution in front of us is a resolution allowing executive manager to amend the SKHHP Housing Capital Fund contracts number 2402 and number 2301. So our role as a public funder has grown rapidly over the last few years. As we evolve, we're committed to refining our process to ensure we are creating affordable housing effectively and without introducing unintended barriers. Today, we'll have a brief update from Kristen, the Operations and Affordable Housing Manager at Multi-Service Center, about Victorian Place 2 and the White River projects. Following that, Dorsal will give us an administrative update, and we'll walk through really what's in front of us. But you've heard me say it many, many times. We moved into this world of being funders quicker than any of us could have ever dreamed. And so the idea that we are going to refine our process should just be a basic tenet of this organization, because the goal is to get that money out there and get projects built as quickly and efficiently as possible. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Kristen.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kristen Logue. I work for the Multi-Service Center as the Operations and Affordable Housing Manager. I greatly appreciate your support in the renovations of both of Victorian Place and of White River. I know we did have some tours of Victorian Place too. We are completed with Victorian Place. We are actually now fully 100% with this property, 100% occupied, and everybody is loving the ability to have the new colors and just the new, feeling good about being at home in their own home with a great new facade. With White River, we have not started rehab on this property yet. Currently, we are in the process of combining two of our properties into one portfolio, and we're going out to do WishFIC tax credits to be able to do a larger rehab with using SKIP funds as leverage for that. We are applying for the WishFIC tax bond credits, which is due, the application is due August 3rd. So we're right in the middle of that. So once that is done, and if we do receive the tax bonds, we will be able to do a larger rehab of the property, not just the envelope, but we'll be able to do the inside of the units, which will make it just a lot better for our tenants that we currently have. So that's currently where we are with that. And it's been a great process. I think that's all I have, unless Dorsal, do you have any questions to go along with that?
Does the board have any questions about either the Victorian Place 2 or the White River Apartments before we move into kind of explaining the administrative change we'll be making?
And quickly, Dorsal, before you start the presentation, our chair has joined us. And so, Nancy, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Dana. And yes, Dorsal, please go ahead with staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair. And just because I want to be sure my slides are showing the correct way. Excellent. Okay. So as part of our efforts to create truly affordable housing, SKIP does include... Yes.
Dorsal, just so you know, your notes and everything are showing as well. It's not in full presentation mode.
Is that better?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as part of our efforts to create truly affordable housing, SKIP includes requirements in our contracts to ensure that the utilities that a tenant is required to pay do not make the home unaffordable unintentionally. So just one quick example of how that works is for a 2-bedroom apartment to be affordable to a household earning 35% AMI, the gross rent per month would be $1,186. So if I was paying $1,000 per month in rent, the amount of utilities that I could be required to pay cannot exceed $186. This is a common requirement across all of the public funders, and there are up to at least 8 different methods that developers are able to use when considering how to factor in utilities when setting gross rental limits. The current SKIP contract template uses the energy consumption model to calculate utility costs. This is sometimes referred to as HUD Method 8, and what it does is it requires the developer to hire a third-party consultant to do a detailed analysis of the actual utility consumption alongside with the individual characteristics of the building. The reason why a developer might want to use the Method 8 approach is if they're renovating the residence investments and putting in a bunch of energy saving appliances or other features that would reduce the monthly utility costs. It would make sense to do this model to then better understand the actual cost of the utilities. Additionally, the energy consumption model, or method 8, is oftentimes required as part of LIHTC funding. Since SKIP's first multifamily contract was a LIHTC project, I believe that is why our template defaulted to the energy consumption model. One other thing to know about the energy consumption model is that it's actually discouraged to be used for rehab projects like Victorian Place 2 or White River. HUD, and for the projects that do need to use that method, HUD will actually waive the requirement to use the energy consumption model for 12 months and after the rehab has been completed. If you think about what the model means, you wouldn't want to do utility analysis during the rehab because you're probably installing appliances or utility infrastructure, which would impact the usage over time. One of the other methods for calculating utilities, and the one that tends to be the most common used by nonprofits, is to use the utility estimates that are being provided by the local public housing authorities. This is actually the method that Multi-Service Center currently uses across all of its residential buildings in South King County. This process is a lot easier on the developer, and it also doesn't require them to pay additional third-party consultant costs to do the analysis. I think also the most important thing to note is that this does not change the rent levels that MSC agreed to set in the SKIP contract. This merely changes the way that the utilities are being calculated. But at the end of the day, for the tenants, the rent and utilities will be the same amount using either the energy consumption or the public health estimates. The chart you see before you would be the chart that MSC would use, and it has been effective here in King County since November 2024. There is a similar chart for single-family homes, but I didn't put that on a slide just because we're looking at the multifamily projects today. So in conclusion, SKIP staff would like to recommend the adoption of Resolution 2605, which would allow the executive manager to amend the White River and Victorian Place 2 contracts to allow them to use the Public Housing Authority utility estimates rather than the energy consumption model. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or take any additional direction from the board.
Thank you, Dorsal. Do any of the board members have questions, comments? I'm not seeing or hearing any. And if I'm missing you, please just go ahead and turn your mic on and let me know. Otherwise, if there are no questions, Dorsal, we are expecting action on this today, correct?
Yes, Chair. Staff would like to recommend adoption of the motion.
All right. So if there are no questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2026-05?
So moved.
And if you could say who you are so that Dorsal can make sure that he's getting that.
Well, Dennis Martinez.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I will second. This is Dana.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 2026-05, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Resolution passes. Thank you. All right, we will move on to discussion items. The first one is item A, local impacts of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. So last week, as you probably know, the bipartisan 21st Century Road to Housing Act became law and marking one of the most significant federal housing investments in decades. It's been talked about for quite a while, finally came to fruition, and it creates massive opportunities for cities to secure funding for housing construction as well as preservation. And so We're going to discuss how SKIP can capitalize on the new legislation. We have with us today Thomas Mayo, Legislative Director for Representative Adam Smith. And Thomas, I will turn it over to you.
Chair, I am not seeing him in the attendees
Thomas is
list.
not in. Okay.
I'm reaching out right now to. I've not heard any change in schedule. One second. I've sent an email and I've now also left a voicemail. Chair, I apologize. I'm not sure what has occurred with our speaker.
That's okay. Maybe he's been held up a little bit. We can move on to item B, which is the 2027 Legislative Priority Survey, if you're okay with that. So each year, SKIP reviews our legislative priorities to ensure we still align with the needs of our communities. And last year, we updated the language and the format of our priority to better highlight the great work that SKIP is doing in South King County. And today, we're going to take a brief survey and discuss any adjustments we want to make for the 2027 legislative session. And this discussion will guide the draft of our legislative priority flyer, which we will then consider in August. So Dorsal, I will turn it over to you. And I know it would have probably been more beneficial to have had the discussion on the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, but we'll do it out of order.
Thank you, Chair. And just one last check to make sure the slides are showing the correct way again.
It is not showing in presentation mode.
Better?
Barrett, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will have a couple of slides that I'll touch on before putting up the QR code for our survey to help develop the draft legislative flyer for your consideration in August. Just as a quick reminder, SKIP staff does not take legislative positions during the legislative session per the direction of the Executive Board. We do share our legislative priority flyer with member cities to include in their own advocacy, and we also use it at SKIP events like the upcoming Affordable Housing Tour in September. So I do want to note that I did add a new slide to the presentation, and so I will send this out to the board right after the meeting, and I'll ensure that it also is posted and available online per OPMA requirements. But one of the questions on the survey is focused on SKIP's role in current conversations and ensuring cities receive credit for sub-regional contributions at the state and the county levels. Representing Skip, I've been part of a couple of conversations and so far, and just wanted to give you a brief update for some context before the survey. Additionally, I wanted to share that King County and the Department of Commerce will be coming to the August SKHHP meeting to discuss some of this work directly with your long-range planners as well. But a few of the conversations that I've taken part in, and to be very clear, Skip staff has not taken a position for any of these, but a few of the East King County cities are potentially considering some advocacy this year in Olympia in relation to amending RCW 3670A.070, just to kind of clear up some of the language in relation to ensuring credit is given to subregional contributions. Additionally, King County staff is currently working on finding a way to highlight the subregional contributions and the regional affordable housing dashboard, and really use the data to help show and share the narrative of the great housing work that Skip and other subregional organizations are doing. And then finally, Arch is also in the process of developing its own kind of suggested methodology to calculate how pooled financial contributions translate into actual credit for individual housing units. I did work with Arch staff to just do some initial analysis using their methodology with our housing numbers, and I reviewed that with the staff work group and SKHHP for their feedback. And so I just wanted to share some of these kind of conversations so that you have that framing when you see that question there on the survey. Additionally, I wanted to again show the 2026 SKIP legislative priority. The board did slightly modify the priority last year, and I just want to make a quick note that on the survey slide here in a second, I was not able to fit the entire priority in the question in a way that would have made sense. And so I just wanted to really show it here and just pause for a moment on the slide to give everyone on the board an opportunity to read it. You will also find the 2026 legislative priority flyer in your agenda packet as well for your full review. But I will just pause here for a second. And so, similar to the March workshop, we will be using in-person survey technology to collect answers in real time. If you have a smartphone or a smart device, you should be able to use the QR code over here in the corner to access the survey. I will also put the link to the survey in the chat. I would just ask that one representative from each of the SKIP member jurisdictions respond to the survey as we go through it. One other thing that's slightly different from the March survey is rather than having multiple QR codes, there's just one QR code. So the board will go through and answer 3, potentially 4 questions, and then hit submit. And then I will go through each of the responses one by one to allow the board an opportunity to discuss and reflect on their responses. The first question is, of course, just a test question to test to make sure that everything is working. And please let me know if you're having technical issues or needing support.
Dorsal, I keep getting a message that says we're having trouble signing you in. Am I the only one that's getting that?
No, I have the same one, Mayor.
Okay.
1 second, let me.
I got in.
There we go. If you let me refresh it on the slide real quick.
And yeah, his thing. He had
Okay,
trouble
I got
getting
in
on
with
their
the
phone.
with the
but I got
link.
in
Yeah,
on I got in on my phone.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in on the link now, but could not get in on my phone.
Firstly, you said that the first question is a test question, but I have all the questions in one. Is that
Yes.
that way?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, too many screens at the moment. Are my slides showing correctly?
Yes.
Great. We have 5 responses so far. Just going. There we go. Okay. See 7 responses, so I'll give it another couple of minutes. We are sitting at 8 responses. Tim?
Victoria, were you able to get in? I saw your message that you were struggling. Yeah, okay, perfect. Good.
We are up to 10 responses. Would anyone who's still working on the survey be comfortable letting us know if you're still working on it? Otherwise, I think we might have had everyone respond. Okay. So getting into the results for the first one. Oh, spoke too soon. For the first answer, this is actually the city of Kent. City of Kent is the second city in King County to incorporate it after the city of Seattle. I was surprised to learn that one myself, but that is the case. So on the question, does the 2026 legislative priorities still reflect your jurisdiction's priorities for 2027? Majority of respondents said yes. We did have some no's though. Does this answer fit with the board? Does someone who responded with a no have potential feedback that they would like to provide?
Hi, Dorsal. This is Sam Tedford representing King County today. I was one of the no votes, but I was hoping I could speak to a couple of potential modifications that would, I think, help improve. Is this the space for that?
I would say yes.
Great. Broadly, I want to say I believe King County is likely to be very supportive of many of the things listed in here. There were two minor amendments or tweaks that I thought would just help strengthen how we talk about the kinds of housing that SKIP would fund and be supportive of. The first one is just in the second bullet related to preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing. We thought it'd be really helpful to also note the need for preservation of existing income restricted housing, given some of the projects that we know SKIP is interested in funding and continuing to preserve as well. And additionally, the final note on the workforce housing was an area that I was a little less clear on what we meant by that. And so I thought it might be more helpful to align with some, language or definitions we have that are already reflected by the state about funding low-income housing. And just given that I don't think SKIP typically funds family size units at all income levels, also adding some clarity on funding low income housing that's family sized as well.
Okay, does anyone have any thoughts on that first suggestion for change to include income restricted housing? Carmen.
I think Victoria may have had her hand up before.
Sorry, Victoria, please go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was not in any hurry, but I think Sam made some interesting points. And one thing I had considered and didn't verbalize it was the part about the all income levels for family housing. So I actually appreciate her bringing that up. And if the other thing on it sounds like it's just basically making the language a little clearer on the income restricted. I think that if it eliminates any ambiguity, that might be a good change as well.
Thank you. Carmen?
I am also in alignment with a lot of what was suggested by the staff member representing from King County. Sam, thank you for those suggestions. I agree with the preservation of income restricted housing and additionally clarity on like a definition for workforce housing, as maybe even expanding that to low income multi-family and family size units and getting a little bit more in the weeds of that. I think it's good to get clarity and be very clear. But yeah, I have no issues with anything that was suggested.
Thank you. Right. And Dorsal, I'm assuming that you took some notes on.
Yes, Chair.
On that. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next question, which was checking in. We did change the format last year to highlight more of the great work that you all are doing in addition to the priority. And it looks like there was overwhelming agreement that was a good choice. So we will keep that edit and include some of the great projects that we funded last year as we build it for August. And then on the last question, which is, should SKIP coordinate a subregional response to evolving state level conversations regarding the recognition of funding of subregional collaborations? Majority said yes. There were a couple that said no. And let me check. There was an option to potentially provide comments, but it does not look like anyone opted to provide comment. So.
Is there anyone, looks like maybe two people voted no on that one. Is there anyone that would like to provide comment as to their position on this question? Sam?
Since I spoke already, I would love to make space if there's other folks, but I do have some comments on this item.
No, please go ahead.
All right. One of the, I think, broader questions I have around this potential new priority is really what we hope it does, what kinds of change it might effectuate. As I understand the specific area of the RCW that we kind of explored, it's related to GMA and housing planning, and I'm not sure what kind of state legislative changes would make an impact, given that many South County jurisdictions have already approved their comprehensive plan, periodic updates. And so I'm just trying to understand what this might actually connect to at the state legislative level and what impact that might have for jurisdictions at this point in time.
Thank you. Dorsal, any thoughts?
Yes. So I tried to dig a little bit further into the there's only a few east side cities that I understand currently that are interested in this approach. And to Sam's point, there's cities that are either having issues with the comp plans being approved or have received some feedback from Commerce that suggests that they needed to do additional work. And so this is potentially a solution that goes back and helps these cities kind of respond to that concern. I will share that Arch is not taking this position on behalf of their cities. It will just be a few of the cities that are making or taking that stance. Additionally, I did reach out to the Association of Washington Cities to try and understand their perspective. As I understand it, AWC has some concerns or some additional thoughts that need to be considered when looking at this change. I just wanted to share the information with the board just because that is one of the conversations that is taking place.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so Maple Valley is one of the cities that has expressed an interest in exploring this. And it's based on, from our perspective, and what I would assume some of the other cities as well, is that while one of the stumbling blocks we have for affordable housing is lack of infrastructure that we need to work on, we're very, very much passionate about doing the right thing and getting affordable housing of all levels in. The numbers that are required for the permanent supportive housing and the lower end are pretty high for our smallish city. And to do that, we recognize we need help. We have one bus line that comes in. We're not on a light rail. We don't have services, all those kinds of things that need to go into being able to effectively do that. So while we're working toward that end, while we're using our $1590, which are, are from our taxpayers, because we agree that this is the best, most effective use in pooling our resources right now, but we're going to have to do both. In the meantime, we would like to see cities such as us get something in the way of some sort of a credit so that if Commerce does come knocking on the door and wondering why we're not putting, our things into place quick enough, or why we're not making what would seem like reasonable accommodations to get that done more quickly, this is something that we feel like could potentially help while we're trying to do the right thing to help create housing regionally, also protect our city and our taxpayers as we work on infrastructure, et cetera.
Thank you. And there have been discussions in various settings lately. SCA has done some discussion. AWC, I think, has done a little bit of that discussion too. I think from my perspective, I can support some type of credit towards a sub-regional collaboration. the challenge, of course, is in the details of the funding versus where additional housing stock is being placed, and whether it's a one-for-one credit or if it's a partial credit for funding and more credit for taking on additional housing in that jurisdiction. So I answered yes to this question just because it is an evolving conversation, and thinking that we should at least have an opportunity to weigh in on that if it continues to evolve, and we want to make sure that our voice is heard in this. So Christina, I see you. Oh, go ahead, Christina, and then Dana. Yeah.
And this is just a comment. We are actually in a very similar scenario and situation as Maple Valley. And it is my understanding that back when the 1590 funds were collected and dispersed, that I'm not sure whether it was a conversation with Commerce, but I'm remembering from, well over a year, maybe 2 years ago, that we were also understanding that there would be a credit system. There were no specifications, there were no clarifications, like you say, Chair Backus, that we would need those details to have a better pulse on what's going on. But we are, again, in a similar situation. We don't have light rail, and we have maybe 1 or 2 bus routes going through Covington, which is also a problem. But that is our understanding as a city. Thank you.
Dana.
Thank you. I also voted yes on this, and it really was to continue the conversation. I feel like we've been talking even before 1590. You go back to things like the countywide planning policies and things like that. So it feels like it's been happening for a long time. Conversations about how much jurisdictions are required to add, jurisdictions that already have been doing that for decades, making sure that there's some sort of system that recognizes what already exists and the work that's already been done, and doesn't just discount that and say that we're all starting from zero. That's been a conversation that's happened for a long time. Everybody needs to add 25% of fill in the blank. And it's like, but if we're all starting from very different places, that doesn't make sense. And so I very much appreciate the pooling and the work that we're doing, but I would like to look at some sort of weighted system so that there's, and having no idea sort of what is in the conversation. If we're talking about a half a point, a quarter, like, I don't understand it. I don't know that we're that far into this, but I think there does need to be credit for the contribution, but then also credit for what is being built where, and then what actually already exists. Because it puts everybody sort of in very different places.
Yes.
And if I could share, Chair, having used borrowed one of the methodologies from Arch, it's an interesting discussion too, because the different funding sources also look differently across each of our jurisdictions, because each jurisdiction is contributing a different type of fund, and then tying in the other sub-regional conversations where their funding structures are very different, how they build their capital funding programs compared to ours. It really is very much in the details of like how exactly to figure out credit without also creating a competition or a suggestion that there's a competition. I do believe, Chair, unless there are other questions or elements of discussion, I have enough information to begin putting together a draft legislative priority for the August meeting.
Great. Any other comments, thoughts you want to share with Dorsal as he begins that work? Okay. Wonderful.
And Chair, our guest speaker and the attendees. I'm working to get them promoted to a panelist so that we're able to have that presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Dorsal.
Thomas, are you able to hear us?
I can hear you guys. How are you?
And welcome, Thomas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize for being late. I have no good excuse. I mismanaged my calendar this afternoon, so I apologize for that. But happy to be.
That never happens to any of us, ever.
Yeah,
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you with us.
of course.
So anytime you are ready, we are your audience.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me. I wanted to tick through, I think I will start with a little bit of some of Congressman Smith's priorities when it comes to housing affordability and like some of the efforts that we've taken there. And then what we saw with the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which is something that we were very supportive of. We do have a critique, and I'll say that for the very end. My boss has consistently wanted to deal with the lack of affordable housing and the lack of the opportunity for folks to be able to buy and own their first home. The lack of affordable housing issues, it touches renters, it touches folks trying to buy their homes. He really sees that as a key pillar in a lot of things that drives not only issues related to income inequality, but also just like quality of life issues for folks. And the way that kind of works downstream whenever you think about what we see with polarization in our country too. Folks looking for answers, whether it's kind of taking a swing with someone like a President Trump, or being open to more kind of like further left policies. At the end of the day, whether or not you agree with either one of those options, it's kind of the idea that folks are looking for answers for these things. And he sees the lack of housing as being a really important pillar in that conversation. So we've had a lot of bills. The type of bills that we co-sponsor and support, the types of policies we support, is all trying to kind of push towards that direction. We've had a couple of different housing bills. I'll flag three of them. We've had our End Hedge Fund Control of American Homes Act, which we just reintroduced. But the whole pillar or the whole idea of that bill is trying to remove institutional investors, hedge funds from the single family housing market, pushing them out altogether. Which is the one critique we do have of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. But we have another bill that we'll look to reintroduce this year called the PHASE Act, where the acronym for that is the Prefabricated Housing and Zoning Enhancement Act. But it's how can we build more housing more quickly, and trying to stand up the prefabricated housing construction model as a way to do that. And then we also have a bill to provide wraparound support services to provide more funding for service coordinators. To keep folks who are already housed stably housed. It's an issue that we've seen talking with folks from like the King County Housing Authority, Seattle Housing Authority, is that some folks it can be a real challenge to keep them housed if they have issues related to healthcare or other sort of needs that create barriers that keep them housed and prevent them from going or falling into homelessness or something along those lines. So those are generally some of like the priorities that my boss has and some of the efforts that we've taken in terms of our own bills that we've sponsored and trying to get at this issue. The 21st Century Road to Housing Act is a really big deal. I know you all have, I'm sure, heard about it, but does a lot of things to try to speed up the permitting process, to build more housing more quickly. It puts a lot more money into trying to preserve the housing stock that we have. And it actually stitches together, I think overall it's around 20 or 21 overall bills that exist separately. And then it stitches them together. And then put together this, I believe it's like over 40 years. It's the biggest, it's the most comprehensive housing package that Congress has passed in it's somewhere between 30 and 40 years. It's been a really long time. A lot of folks deserve a lot of credit on this.
Don't mention it.
Yeah, I know. It frustrates us too. It is difficult to track.
For some reason, my phone just decided to say, "Don't mention it." I don't know what that was for.
Well, I agree with your phone. If it was commenting on this takes way too long, I'm with your phone because it is frustrating to see this issue the way that my boss does and feel like there's such an uphill battle in trying to get these things moving. So whenever this did start to move, we were really thrilled. We were really happy about it. A lot of folks who deserve credit on this are people who are on the committees of jurisdiction, first and foremost. Ranking Member Waters in the House, Senator Elizabeth Warren on the Senate played pivotal parts in getting this together. And then all the folks who had their individual bills put in there. We've tried pretty hard to move our bill, especially our hedge fund bill. We even tried to get that included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's a long story, but we worked with Senator Jeff Merkley's office on this, and we tried to slim it down in order to comply with Senate parliamentarian rules to pass through the reconciliation process whenever that was being debated. But as you can imagine, Republicans weren't for that. It didn't make its way in. But we saw an opening, and Senator Merkley's team deserves a lot of credit here. Randomly, I don't know if you guys were kind of following this as it was working its way through Congress. I believe that it already passed the House. And then randomly, President Trump had tweeted out or put on Truth Social or whatever that he wanted to ban institutional investors from buying up single-family homes. And immediately when that happened, we got on the horn. My boss was on the ball, making calls to people, trying to push for these provisions. Where, hey, we have a bill for that. Where we landed when it comes to and this is our critique of the bill. Where it landed is that it put up guardrails that we think are much needed. Our bill would have said you can't own any single family homes. And then after we give them a 10-year period to divest from what they already own, which, the last numbers we have on this is collectively institutional investors own upwards of 600,000 single family homes in the United States. Our bill would say you have to sell off 10% of the housing stock that you own. Then after 10 years, you can't own any. This bill is much softer in that area. It allows institutional investors to own up to 350 single-family homes. It defines them a little differently between 1 and 2 dwelling units, where ours defines them as 1 and 4. We think that's a better representation of what single-family homes actually look like. And this bill also sunsets after 15 years. So all these sort of prohibitions go away after 15 years. So you saw us reintroduce our bill. We dropped it last Friday and did some social media on it on Monday. It's Protecting American Homes from Hedge Funds Act. We did this with Representative Ro Khanna, Linda Sanchez, and Nikema Williams. So that was our one critique. But overall, my boss has commented about this. The big focus about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, the focus that it had really does try to get at the underlying problem of why housing is so unaffordable, is that we don't build it quickly enough. We don't build enough of it. We don't build it quickly enough, which makes it more expensive. So we think there's a lot of really good components in here. And it's something that we were proud to support. My boss voted for it. And we really look forward to next Congress, because there's already conversations that are happening with Senator Warren's office and others, is what does the 21st Century Housing Act or Road to Housing Act 2.0 look like? And we really want to have a seat at the table for all the things that we believe in, and especially the hedge fund piece. We think those folks are bad actors in this space, and something that we don't think folks should have to compete with whenever they're trying to buy their first home.
Thank you, Thomas.
Of course.
Board members, do you have any questions for Thomas? Dorsal, anything else you would like to share?
Thomas, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about some of the grant opportunities that will be coming available to local cities around opportunities to increase permit timelines or potentially to engage in certain pilot programs. I think, for example, one of the things I saw was a temperature sensor pilot program to kind of monitor residential temperatures in places where we know that heat's becoming a concern, like in South King County, where there's a regular 20-degree difference compared to the rest of King County. Could you say a little bit about some of the grant opportunities that the bill's created?
Yeah, there's actually, and I was pulling up my notes here because it comes in a few different chunks, and I'll tick through these. It looks like there's 6 or 7 of these. For ones that are most relevant for local cities, we have housing planning and development grants. There's a few buckets underneath there in terms of the types of grants that it establishes. There's rehabilitation and conversion grants, affordable housing construction, opportunity zones, homelessness, and disaster recovery. I think that's a really good model in terms of one of the issues we have whenever we create housing legislation on the federal level is that we don't have jurisdiction over all the areas that we would like to in order to, when I say we would like to, whenever it would be easier for us to craft a policy that can maybe get to a solution as quickly as we would like to. So one of the things that we've had to leverage whenever we write bills, and this is most notable in the PHASE Act, our prefabricated housing bill, is we have a section in there where it says, hey, if for local cities, that says if you have permitting processes that can deliver homes, that can deliver a permit at this speed, or if you have zoning regulations that allow these different types of housing, here's a bucket of money, here's a grant for you to be able to apply to. So we think that this approach is smart. We think that's the way to get at it. Whenever this bill starts becoming implemented, I'm sure it'll take some time. I need to look, and I'm happy to follow up on that point too, in terms of the implementation of these grants when they may become available. But these will certainly be things that our office will be happy to do all we can to support you all whenever you start applying for these grants. I mean, this is just first and foremost something that my boss views as just one of the very top issues that we work on when it comes to housing. So like the one that you were referring to, I would have to look into more specifics if you're kind of curious about like the eligibility criteria and that sort of thing. Definitely something I would be happy to follow up with you on. But just as a general rule, we think it's smart to draft the bill this way, and we're going to be tracking closely as it's being implemented and those grants become available. Certainly be reaching out to folks to let them know. And then whenever folks are able to start applying for grants, we're more than happy to be helpful in all the ways that we can, whether that's a letter, if that's most appropriate, if it's a conversation with HUD or on my level as a staff level, if it's a private letter to HUD, whatever it may be, happy to do all those things.
All right. Anything else? Any questions from the board or the staff working group? Anyone involved here today if you have any questions? All right. Sam, yes, Sam.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Thomas, for making some time to be with us today. I did have a question because it was interesting to me to know that we had some information about the number of institutional investors who own single family homes nationwide. I'm curious if after the limitation on, that I think you said 250 homes or maybe it was 350 homes was put on, just roughly how many homes we believe are still kind of in that category after they put that threshold on there.
It's a good question. One of the challenges we face, even now, whenever we're trying to collect information on how many homes they actually own, is difficult just because of the sort of the web that exists for these ownership groups whenever they do own the different single family homes, whether they own 10, 20, 40, 50, 60, etc. It's difficult to know. One of the things that we're fearful of with the way in which this legislation was drafted when it comes to hedge funds is what prevents them from breaking up into smaller LLCs and owning 349 or 350. If your Invitation Homes, which used to be Blackstone, which got sold and kind of separated out into Invitation Homes, and then now they're the biggest owner of single family homes in the U.S. For hedge funds. What would prevent them from breaking up into smaller entities and owning just right at the limit, and they can still kind of keep it and collect the revenue? So we think that's a problem with the way in which the bill was drafted. In terms of like your specific question, I would have to do some checking on that, and it would still be hard to get the number. What we think, though, even though that we have critiques of this, is we still think it's a step in the right direction. We see this as Congress acknowledging that this isn't good. And we're saying, hey, it's obviously not a best practice to allow hedge funds to compete with first-time home buyers whenever they're trying to buy a single-family home. We don't understand why you would say, okay, it's not good, therefore you can own 350 of them. We think they shouldn't own any. But it will certainly make a dent. I just don't know exactly what the sort of cost benefit analysis will be for the hedge funds, if it would make more sense for them and more money to just break into smaller LLCs and own 350 versus selling off their stock altogether, or if you're Invitation Homes, selling 50,000 homes or whatever it may be.
Senator Orwell.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Thomas. We're so grateful for the work you're doing on housing. And I know we were looking at the whole hedge fund issue in Washington, and Senator Alvarado did the cap bill. Don't think we got it through. I was trying to set up a registry, trying to tackle the issue you raised, which is if you had a registry, would they have to be able to share like umbrella organizations? I think we are trying to figure out how we truly know what bigger entities they're tied with. So any input would be great.
I would do a backflip if you created a registry. We've talked. I think it's a great idea. I think it makes a lot of sense to understand who owns what homes. And if you own 10, if you're an individual and you own 10, I think it makes sense for that to be knowable. And if you're a larger company and you own 50, I think it makes sense for us to understand that these are the 50 properties you own. I think I think that's a fantastic idea. Number one, it would be a resource for folks on the federal level who want to legislate against this. I think it would be great. Like what we've had to do in the past in trying to find this information is we pulled, like if you were to look at our fact sheet that we released I think we put out a lot more information on Monday with some of our materials. But if you were to look at that, a lot of the numbers we have, I believe, reference 2023, because those were in 2023 and 2024. Those are some of the most up-to-date numbers we can find that we can verify. We've had other folks who work in the real estate industry who've told us that, oh yeah, we can find this information. But on that scale that we need in terms of countrywide, it's a pretty tall task.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, we thank you, Thomas, for coming in and joining us today. And we appreciate, please let Congressman Smith know that we appreciate his work in this arena and the fact that he has continued to be a champion for not just, for South King County. So we appreciate it.
Of course. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. And again, I do apologize for being tardy, but really appreciate the opportunity. Would be happy to come back and keep you updated on all the work that we're trying to engage in this space. It's vitally important, and my boss cares a lot about it.
Great. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks all.
Thank you. All right. So we are close to the end of the agenda. Dorsal, I know you have some announcements. I just, and when you're finished, I have one more announcement to share. So why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of quick announcements. I just want to share that we do have our affordable housing tour upcoming on September 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. So that is our normal executive board meeting time for the month of September. So you should have it on your calendar. I am in the process of finalizing details, but I can share that we will be visiting a skip funded project that we have not visited yet. It will only be one location, so you will miss the joys of me driving a bus around South King County. So we'll meet just directly on location. The organization just wanted an opportunity to share internally with their team before we shared too widely. And of course, in addition to yourselves, we would love for you to invite anyone from your councils or from your staff or anyone that would love to see the work that Skip is doing. And Skip staff will, of course, be reaching out to our state delegation representing South King County so that they're also aware and able to attend if they would like to attend. But really looking forward to the affordable housing tour in September. And then I just wanted to share another quick update on the 2026 Housing Capital Fund round. So far, SKIP staff have had 2 pre-application meetings so far, and we have 2 more scheduled for next week. So we have potentially up to 4 applicants to consider in this funding round. 2 of these projects potentially would be new construction projects located in the city of Federal Way, a new construction project potentially located in the city of Renton, and a rehab project that is located in the city of Burien. I will share that we are not seeing as many applicants as we have in previous funding rounds, but I've heard from other public funders that they've kind of had a similar experience to us, where we are receiving fewer applicants and the amount of funding being requested is higher, which I think is just consistent with where the housing market is in our region so far. And then one last update from me. I wanted to just ensure that the board is aware that SKIP has been included in the King County Executive's Breaking the Cycle Investment and Revenue and Homelessness and Housing Work Group. I attended on behalf of SKIP at the first meeting, which was on June 29th. I'd be happy to provide more information and ensure that the executive board is kept up to date. I would just share at the first meeting, the work group worked to review the current funding landscape across King County when it comes to housing and homelessness, and begun to identify areas of focus, including looking at potential revenue sources, the rate that would be available from each of those sources, and potential areas of focus for where that additional revenue could go to ensure that it's being best used. The next work group meeting will be in August, and I'm happy to update the board as much as they would like on the work of the work group. But that's what I have, Chair, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Dorsal. Any questions for Dorsal? Okay, well, I will share with you, Mayor Ralph and I, as chair and vice chair, have been involved in interviews for the executive manager for SKIP. We have gone through that initial process, but there needs to be a process with the SKIP board in order, because Auburn does not make the hiring decisions. It's the SKIP board that ultimately makes the hiring decision. So we are hoping to have 2 finalists that we would like to have a small portion of the board engage in for another round of interviews without making it a public process at a board meeting. And so I'm wondering if there are any members of the board, and Mayor Ralph also is suggesting that we have members of the staff working group involved in those interviews as well. So wondering if there are any members of the board or even the staff working group that are here today that would be interested in sitting in on this second round of interviewing. Carmen? You are? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Victoria?
I have a question on it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would love to, but my schedule's gotten really nuts. So do we have any ideas, like when it might happen or what time today or anything?
We don't have dates yet. I wanted to see if we could get a group together, and then we will try and do some type of a doodle poll, if you will, okay, so that we can get the most people that are interested in being involved.
Okay. I'd like to be included in the doodle poll then.
Okay, wonderful. Brian?
Yeah, I'm available as well if needed.
Okay, and Sam?
Yes, I just wanted to offer that I think King County could either send a representative from the staff work group or Jelani potentially as our board member.
Wonderful. Okay, and Christina?
Yes, and can I ask, is it just, so kind of branching off of what Victoria asked, is it one sitting or is it multiple meetings that would be there?
So it would just be one, like 2-hour block.
Yeah, that's excellent. I can do that.
Great. Okay.
Nancy, Marina put in the chat that she would be
Excellent. Anyone else from the staff working group that would like to be involved?
I sit in, I'm here for Liz today, but I'm also on the staff work group and I'm happy to sit in with Marina as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anya. All right. We will, our HR director is out on vacation through today. She'll be back, I believe, on Monday. So we will get working on scheduling those interviews. Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? We are giving you back so much time on a Friday afternoon. What a gift. Anybody have anything? All right. Well, I hope you find something this weekend that will bring you joy and that will refill your cup, because we know that we are all dedicated servant leaders, but there are times that we need to make sure that we are serving ourselves as well in order to be the best that we can possibly be for the communities that we represent. So thank you all for the work that you do. Find whatever it is that fills your cup and that brings you joy, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.